So as Don mentioned, Texas Tech 5-1 on the year, 3-0 in the Big 12, and yet unranked in the top 25. Um, in fact, if you look at it this way and go into the receiving votes category, the Red Raiders would be the equivalent of 32nd in the AP poll. I've said this before here on the pod, uh, but I think that the Big 12 is not getting much respect among voters, among AP voters. How much of a problem do you think this is for the conference, or do you think, these teams are ranked about where they should be? What do you say?
Um, I feel like the teams are probably ranked about where they should be. Um, Ultimately, they have the saving grace, and that is that whoever wins the conference, you can't keep them out. They're going to be in the college football playoff.
Right.
And probably an opportunity to be the number 4 seed in the college football playoff with a first round bye. It's just so unusual. I can't compare it to anything in my lifetime to have a conference where you have a bunch of good teams, but not a team that's a traditional power. I mean, help me out here, Brice. When have we had a conference like this that has a bunch of teams that are capable of being in the top 25, but you don't have a Texas or Oklahoma anymore. The SEC has always had traditional power, be it Alabama or Georgia or LSU or whomever else. The Pac-12 before that, the Pac-10 before that, the Pac-8. They always had USC and UCLA, and then the rise of Washington. The Big Ten has always had Michigan and Ohio State. I just unless you could compare it at points to maybe an ACC before Clemson under Dabo Swinney. This conference is kind of unusual, but I have a hard time really making a case for any of these teams being top. I was going to say, yeah, top 10 maybe, let alone top 5.
And Iowa
Where am
State
I? Where
is
am I
in the
wrong on
top.
that?
Iowa State is in the top 10. So,
Okay, yeah, Iowa State is, but uh, I think Iowa State is there. Iowa State's there because they're undefeated. But
yeah.
are they one of the 10 best teams in the nation? I'm Really could be, but I don't know. I don't say that.
Great
I can't
point.
say definitively they are.
Yeah, it's a great point. Zach?
Yeah, I think it's a big problem for the Big 12. You want to have a game like Ohio State and Oregon where the nation is there and everybody's watching, and like that is the very clear game of the week, or Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson, Miami when that one eventually happens. Like the Big 12 doesn't have that. Like if it's Iowa State versus BYU, like is that going to get college game day? Like, is that a game day game? I don't think so. And I think that's a big problem for the Big 12. And I mean, even you look at what's happening with Ashton Genty and Boise State, like, would they get the 4 seed if they go, if they have one loss to Oregon? Would Boise State get the 4 seed over a Big 12 champion? I could make that argument, and that's not a good thing for the Big 12. So I don't like the way that things are trending for the Big 12. I know I love Brett Yormark and the ways, like what his ideas that he's doing, bringing to the conference, but it's just, it's difficult, man. And it's hard to, have a rosy outlook about the Big 12 right now.
So I do think it's the byproduct of a year where the league has a lot of teams that don't have a lot of separation. That there's just not one team out there that is like head and shoulders better than the rest, and everybody can go, man, that team is good. Uh, I you know I completely hear what you're saying, Zach, and agree. They don't have the brand names anymore, so that is a problem. The OU and the Texas were the brand names in college football. I still think this has the potential, and even is right now a good conference. I mean, it's just I think it's going to play third fiddle to at best to the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, when you look at what 7 of the 8 top teams in the country. Um, I think it's the only one that's the outlier there that's not Big Ten or SEC is Miami. Um, so yeah, I mean that is a problem, but that's honestly kind of been a problem for a while. I mean, the fact that I personally feel like SEC teams are always going to be a little bit overrated in terms of like you could have a six-loss Alabama team, they might get top 25 votes just because they're Alabama. But uh, so yeah, I agree. It is a problem for the Big 12. Uh,
Well,
Go ahead, Dom.
maybe the other thing is also the teams that are in the Big 12 that you expect to be good, they need to be good, and a team for and we're not you're not getting that this year because uh, Arizona's been a disappointment. Utah's been a big disappointment, and Oklahoma State's been a huge disappointment. And I wasn't a big believer in Kansas, but obviously Kansas had some preseason expectations, and now they're 1-4 with specializing in losing close games. Um,
So what you're
and so that
saying?
doesn't help either.
So what you're saying is, save us, Texas Tech, save us.